What if the discomfort you feel right now isn't proof that you've gone off track, but the clearest sign that you are exactly where you are meant to be? What if this sense of not fitting anywhere, of being emotionally out of sync with your life, your job, even your own thoughts, isn't confusion, but a signal you've outgrown your old reality? You are not lost, you are not broken, you are between stages. And this space, though invisible, often painful and unbearable, holds the precise energy that always precedes a true leap. In every transformation, there is a moment when nothing makes sense anymore. The passions that once drove you forward fall silent. Conversations lose their meaning. Old ambitions no longer ignite the fire. You look at your life from a distance, not fully in it, not fully out of it. And that is when the mind begins to panic. It craves clarity, movement, proof that you are still progressing. But what it doesn't understand is this: the silence, the unraveling. This is progress. This is the dismantling of an outdated identity. The vibrational web that once held you in your old life is dissolving. And while this process unfolds at the energetic level, the external world hasn't yet caught up. That's why it feels like you are floating in emptiness. But it isn't a pause, it is the prologue. In quantum science, there is a concept called superposition, a state where a particle exists in multiple possibilities at once, until observation collapses it into one outcome. It holds every potential simultaneously. And that's exactly where you are now. You are not failing, not falling apart, but hovering between your past self and your next evolution. It is an energetic transition. You are being recalibrated, and often, recalibration feels like collapse, not because you're moving backward, but because everything that no longer matches the new frequency is being stripped away, layer by layer. Most people resist this phase. They call it stagnation or defeat. They rush to fill the silence with noise to rekindle a fire that has already gone out. But the truth is simple. You cannot revive a frequency that no longer belongs to you. You cannot breathe life back into an old version of yourself that your soul has already left behind. The discomfort you feel is not punishment, but a sign. You are not supposed to force the old reality to work again. You are supposed to release it. In spiritual traditions, this is called the void, the space between death and birth, the womb of creation. There, in the darkness, everything is rearranged before the light returns, and this space requires a rare quality in a hyper-productive world: silence, not inactivity, but presence. Silence is not the absence of movement. It is the full awareness of what is being rebuilt beneath the surface. Your task now is not to act, but to attune, not to fight, but to align. Because this is not about doing more. It is about becoming different. And here is what must be remembered. The quantum field does not respond to effort. It only responds to frequency. And the version of you that lives in your next reality already exists. It is not imaginary. It vibrates in the field, on another level. Your task is not to create it, but to collapse into it, to match its frequency so precisely that the field is forced to rearrange your external world to mirror it. Imagine a bow drawn before release. The tension, the pull backward, this is not regression, it is propulsion. The greater the tension, the further the arrow flies. Your discomfort is not deviation, it is trajectory. You are not falling apart, you are gathering momentum. But there is one condition. If you fight this stage, you stop your own ascent. If you rush to rebuild what is collapsing, to preserve the old scaffolding instead of letting it fall, you will trap yourself between two timelines. Those who truly make the leap are the ones who surrender to this in-between. They stop asking, "How do I fix this?" and instead begin asking, "What is this space clearing the way for?" Every ending you resist keeps you chained to a story that no longer belongs to you. Every attempt to hold together the collapsing structure is like forcing yourself to live in a house whose foundations have already turned to dust. It may stand for a while, but the cracks will spread until the weight becomes unbearable. This is why the in-between feels cruel. It rips away what is familiar. It asks you to walk without ground under your feet. And yet, hidden within this void is the very architecture of rebirth, like a forest fire that destroys the old growth so that new life can emerge. This dismantling is not punishment, but preparation. When the self unravels, the ego mourns. It clings to identity the way a child clings to a worn-out toy, believing survival depends on it. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that clinging only delays the inevitable. To resist transformation is to suffocate under your own outdated skin. Notice how your body responds in these moments. The heaviness, the fatigue, the strange sense that everything familiar feels hollow. This is not weakness. It is the physical echo of energetic reorganization. Cells, emotions, even thought patterns are recalibrating to match a frequency you have not yet stepped into. That is why old ambitions taste like ash in your mouth and old desires feel foreign. They were designed for a version of you that no longer exists. Think of it like a snake shedding its skin. The process is uncomfortable, even dangerous. The snake is vulnerable while the old skin peels away. But if it refuses, it cannot grow. It suffocates inside what once protected it. The very thing that was once life-giving becomes a coffin. The same law applies to you. That relationship, that career, that identity you once celebrated may now feel suffocating, not because it was wrong, but because it is complete. Its cycle has ended. And endings are not failures. They are invitations to a higher resonance. The ego fears endings because it equates them with death, but the soul recognizes endings as thresholds. The threshold between what was and what will be. Step across it, and you discover that nothing essential ever dies. Only forms dissolve. Essence remains. This is the paradox of transformation. To become more, you must first become less. Less attached, less certain, less defined by the scaffolding of who you once were. Only then can the new architecture of self take shape. And yet, culture tells us to resist this emptiness, to keep producing, keep striving, keep filling every silence with noise. But silence is not your enemy. Silence is where the blueprint of your next reality is drawn. Just as an artist begins with a blank canvas, creation begins in stillness. When you allow yourself to rest in this stillness, you begin to sense the whispers of the future self calling to you. It is not loud, not forceful. It arrives like a subtle frequency, a resonance that feels both foreign and familiar. At first, it terrifies the ego because it has no reference for what is coming. But if you stay long enough in the silence, the fear begins to soften. What once felt like death begins to reveal itself as birth. Transformation rarely announces itself with clarity. More often, it cloaks itself in confusion. You feel disoriented, as though the map you once trusted has been torn in half. That is because the old map no longer applies. You are walking into a territory that has never existed before, your next self. And no map can lead you there, only frequency can. So, instead of demanding clarity, learn to anchor in trust. Trust that the emptiness is fertile. Trust that the unraveling is sacred. Trust that life is not dismantling you to destroy you, but to align you with the blueprint already encoded in your soul. Think of the seed buried underground. From the surface, it looks like death, darkness, stillness, no movement. Yet beneath the soil, invisible to the eye, the seed is swelling with life. The shell is cracking open. The old form must rupture so that the new form can push through. If you were to judge the process too soon, you'd believe nothing was happening. But the truth is, everything is happening. That is what this void is. The cracking of the shell. The pain you feel is the signal that the seed of your next self is breaking open. And though the ego screams for the comfort of the familiar, the soul celebrates the promise of what is about to emerge. The in-between is not a mistake. It is the most sacred stage of transformation. To abandon it is to abandon yourself. To endure it with trust is to step into the frequency where miracles are born. The space between who you were and who you are becoming feels like exile. You are no longer at home in your old reality, yet the new one has not fully arrived. This exile is not punishment, it is initiation. To walk the bridge of transformation is to be stripped bare of every illusion that once kept you safe. The ego hates this stage because it cannot measure it. It wants proof, outcomes, recognition. But transformation is not measured in checklists or achievements. It is measured in frequency. And frequency does not reveal itself in the language of the mind, but in the resonance of the soul. Notice how old desires fall silent. The things you once chased now fail to stir your heart. The circles you once moved in feel distant, as if you are watching them from behind glass. This is not alienation. It is alignment. Life is gently, sometimes violently, pulling you out of resonance with what no longer serves you. At first, this feels like loneliness. You crave connection, but the old conversations ring hollow. You crave passion, but the old ambitions no longer burn. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of resonance. And what is leaving you now are the frequencies that kept you anchored to an outdated self. This is why so many people turn back. The silence feels unbearable. The emptiness feels like failure. But emptiness is not failure, it is preparation. The womb must be empty before it can conceive. The field must be cleared before new seeds can be planted. You are not being punished with loneliness. You are being prepared for alignment. To rush back to old connections, just to fill the void, is to sabotage the very frequency that is rising within you. Not everyone can walk with you to the next level. Some souls are only meant to walk with you through certain chapters. When their role is complete, their presence dissolves. To cling to them is to cling to a past that cannot sustain your future. Letting go is the highest form of trust. It is to believe that what leaves you is clearing space for what is aligned. It is to believe that resonance matters more than familiarity. The ego will mourn. It will beg you to stay in the comfort of the known. But the soul whispers, trust the silence, trust the space, trust the unseen. In the quantum field, every possibility exists at once. Infinite realities vibrate, waiting for resonance to collapse them into form. The version of you that already embodies your next chapter is not somewhere far away. It exists here and now, vibrating at a frequency that is waiting for your alignment. This is why forcing outcomes never works. Effort alone cannot move you into a higher reality. Only resonance can. You can run endlessly in circles, striving, pushing, fighting, but if your frequency does not shift, your reality will not shift. Think of music. Two notes played together either clash or harmonize. When they harmonize, a third tone, a resonance, emerges richer than either note alone. That is what happens when you align with your future self. When your vibration harmonizes with what is already encoded in the field, reality responds with a resonance so powerful it reshapes your external world. This is the hidden truth of transformation. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering the frequency you were always destined to embody. The silence strips away the noise so you can hear that tone again. The void clears the static so you can tune in with precision. And yet, most people will never wait long enough in the silence to hear it. They rush back to old distractions, old identities, old addictions to certainty. But certainty is not the goal. Alignment is. Certainty keeps you safe. Alignment sets you free. Your task in this exile is not to prove, not to perform, not to persuade. Your task is to attune, to listen so deeply that the whisper of your next self becomes louder than the screams of your ego, to sit so still that the vibration of what you are becoming overtakes the memory of what you were. This is the sacred discipline of transformation, to resist the urge to rebuild the old, and instead become a vessel for the new, to allow emptiness to remain empty long enough for true resonance to emerge. It is in this exile that your wings are growing. You cannot see them yet, but the pain in your back is not a burden. It is the pressure of emergence. The cracking you feel is not collapse, it is expansion. And when the moment comes, the silence will break, the resonance will lock in, and the reality around you will shift as though overnight. But it will not be overnight. It will be the culmination of every moment you trusted the void instead of rushing to escape it. The silence of transformation is deceptive. To the outside world, it may look like you are standing still, doing nothing, wasting time. But silence is not stagnation. Silence is construction. Beneath the surface, entire blueprints are being drawn. Invisible scaffolding is being built. The field is rearranging itself in response to the frequency you are learning to hold. This is why patience is not weakness, but mastery. The caterpillar does not claw its way into becoming a butterfly. It dissolves. Inside the cocoon, its body literally breaks down into liquid form. To an unknowing observer, it would look like death. But within that darkness, a new design is silently assembling. Wings are forming where none existed before. The miracle is invisible until it is undeniable. That is what your life is doing now. You may feel like everything is falling apart, but in truth, everything is falling into place. The collapse is not chaos, it is reorganization. The silence is not absence, it is preparation. And here lies the greatest test. Can you remain still long enough for the new design to complete? Can you trust the process without demanding proof at every step? Most cannot. They tear open the cocoon too soon, desperate for progress, only to cripple the wings that were not yet ready to fly. To honor the silence is to honor your becoming. It is to treat your unseen growth with reverence. The culture of urgency will not understand. It will tell you to move faster, to chase, to prove. But creation does not answer to urgency. It answers to frequency. The deeper you attune, the faster reality bends. Think of water turning into steam. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. Heat builds quietly. The molecules vibrate faster and faster, but the change is invisible. And then, in one sudden shift, the state changes. Liquid becomes vapor. This is how transformation unfolds. It looks like nothing until it is everything. This is why The void demands faith. Faith not in blind hope, but in resonance. Faith that what is unseen is more real than what is collapsing. Faith that life is not dismantling you out of cruelty, but refining you into coherence. The truth is, the silence is not empty. It is full of frequencies rearranging themselves, full of potentials gathering shape. Your task is not to rush them, but to hold steady until alignment becomes inevitable. You may feel restless, even desperate. The mind will beg for distractions, for old habits, for the comfort of noise. But noise only drowns the whisper of the field. Noise blinds you to the symphony that is quietly tuning itself inside you. Instead of filling the void, learn to listen. Notice the subtle guidance rising from within. Notice how your body leans towards certain choices, how your intuition pulses when something resonates. This guidance is not random. It is the frequency of your future self pulling you forward. And here is the paradox. The more you trust the silence, the faster the alignment comes. The more you try to control it, the longer you delay it. Control is the language of fear. Surrender is the language of resonance. Surrender does not mean passivity. It means presence. It means choosing to show up fully even when you have no proof. It means holding your vibration steady even when the external world has not yet shifted. It means trusting that the field responds not to desperation, but to coherence. Every great leap in life follows this law. The artist does not force inspiration. They create space for it. The seed does not force the soil to split. It simply grows until the soil cannot hold it anymore. The butterfly does not rush its wings. It waits until they are strong enough to carry it. You are no different. The silence is your cocoon, your soil, your blueprint. To abandon it is to abandon the miracle. To trust it is to invite the moment when everything breaks open at once. And when that moment comes, it will not feel like effort. It will feel like inevitability, as though the life you step into was always waiting for you, encoded in your very cells, written into the fabric of your soul. The silence will end, the alignment will lock in, and the world will rearrange itself to match what you have become. There always comes a moment when the silence breaks, a moment when what once felt like endless exile suddenly reveals itself as preparation. And when that moment arrives, the shift is undeniable. The air feels different. The heaviness lifts. Doors open without force. People appear who carry the frequency of your next chapter. Opportunities align with uncanny precision. It feels less like you are chasing life, and more like life is chasing you. But do not mistake this arrival as the end. It is only the beginning. The silence was the foundation. The void was the womb. Now you step into the reality that was gestating all along. And yet, the discipline you learned in the in-between remains essential. Because if you forget how to honor silence, you risk losing alignment in the noise of the new. The truth of transformation is not that you become someone else, but that you finally allow yourself to live as who you always were. The field does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are. And when you hold the frequency of coherence long enough, reality has no choice but to rearrange itself around you. This is why the masters of life are not those who strive the hardest, but those who align the deepest. They know that effort without resonance is wasted. They know that rushing ahead only fractures the field. They know that silence is not a gap in progress, but the secret engine of it. Look back at your exile with new eyes. The loneliness, the emptiness, the collapse, none of it was wasted. Every crack in your old identity was a doorway. Every silence was a rehearsal. Every unraveling was a clearing. Without it, you could not have carried the vibration you now hold. Without it, you would still be chained to what was instead of stepping into what is. The void gave you a gift disguised as loss. It stripped away what was never truly you, so that only essence remained. And now, essence shines. Now, resonance speaks louder than fear. Now, alignment becomes your compass. But remember, this cycle will repeat. Growth is not linear. Every new level requires a new void. Every new resonance demands a fresh silence. And the deeper your journey, the more comfortable you must become with emptiness. For emptiness is not the enemy. It is the sacred threshold between worlds. The next time you feel the ground dissolving beneath your feet, do not panic. Recognize the pattern. Remember that exile is initiation, that silence is construction, that loneliness is alignment, and that every collapse conceals the blueprint of rebirth. Let this become your mantra. I am not lost. I am being rebuilt. I am not broken. I am being refined. I am not empty. I am being prepared. Carry these words into every silence. Let them anchor you when the ego trembles, when the old maps crumble, when the world tells you to move faster. Because the truth is, you are not falling behind. You are being pulled ahead by a frequency that knows exactly where you belong. One day, you will look back on this moment, this exile, this silence, this unbearable stillness, and you will see it for what it was, the most sacred chapter of all, the chapter where you learned to trust the unseen, the chapter where you became strong enough to hold resonance, the chapter where you died to the old so you could be born into the new. And when you walk forward from here, remember that every silence hides a symphony, every void hides a birth, every ending hides a beginning. You do not have to fear the unraveling anymore. You do not have to fear the emptiness, for now you know the void is not nothing. The void is everything. So stand still when the world shakes. Trust when the path disappears. Breathe when the silence feels endless, because in that silence, wings are forming. And soon, you will not just walk into your next chapter, you will fly.